Shalom. Good afternoon to OP Jindal Global University. On behalf of Jindal Center for Israel Studies, myself, Rohidas Gupta, and Dr. Kivra Jangid welcome you to OP Jindal University and India. Area Studies, we are a center under Jindal School of International Affairs. Our dean here, let me just do a quick introduction on stage. Professor Sriram Chaulia, who's Dean Jindal School of International Affairs, Kivra Jangid, co-director, Jindal Center for Israel Studies, Ambassador Dr. Ron Malka, Ambassador of Israel to India, Professor C. Raj Kumar, Vice Chancellor, founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University, Nama Shalom, my dear friend, and Professor at Shalem College, Annie Hillel, who's from Shalem College as well, and Mayan from Embassy of Israel as well. So Jindal Center for Israel Studies started in 2012 with the idea of promoting area studies within the School of International Affairs related to Israel, particularly Jewish identity, understanding Israeli society, culture, and history, as well as aspects of conflict. We also delve into Holocaust education and also looking at American Jewish diasporic experiences related to politics and identity politics. So we have established over the years number of exchanges with Israeli universities like Hebrew U, of course, Shalem College, IDC Herzliya, Tel Aviv University, also to mention Brandeis University's Schusterman Center that gave us the intellectual impetus to start Israel studies in India, as well as we've partnered with United States Holocaust Memorial Museum over various projects related to Holocaust and genocide. So here we are. This is the second year that we are welcoming Shalem College to our campus, and I hope you get a lot out of it in terms of art, culture, literature, language, and of course, friendship. So can I just welcome Professor C. Raj Kumar, founding Vice Chancellor, OP Jindal Global University, to share a few words. Oh, is it Sriram? Okay, sorry. So, all right, okay. There was a change. Okay, can I welcome Professor Sriram Chaulia, Dean, Jindal School of International Affairs, to say his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Rohi. Thank you all for being here. On behalf of the School of International Affairs at Jindal University, I welcome you all. This is the second group coming from Shalem, but this time we are luckier because no less than the Ambassador of Israel to India, His Excellency Dr. Malka, is here to address you, to open this very interesting program. Now with Shalem, this is our second year in succession, and I'm sure you spoke to your friends who came here last time, so before deciding to come. So I believe the feedback has been very good. Our dear former colleague and friend Dr. Nama has also sent a very detailed feedback from last year's program, and I believe it's been fantastic. So I must say that the size of the group alone is like a record-breaking thing, because generally when we host foreign students, Excellency, from many countries, they come for this kind of program, but 40 plus students in a single group we have never had. And so it just shows the level of interest that Israeli, from a small country, the level of interest that we are seeing among young people to come to India and to learn English language as well as other things about India is really heartwarming for us. And I think really the credit goes to the Shalem staff who have been, shepherding this whole process for the last 2 years. And Nama, of course, knows this place and has been a major ambassador for us in Israel. I was there just a few months ago, and I had the privilege of traveling a bit along with my colleague, Professor Jangid. Of course, I didn't come to your campus, but we spoke I went to the foreign ministry as well, and we had extensive discussions. And what I realized is that notion of India as a very special country is quite widespread in Israel, right? And maybe perhaps in the entire region, because I was in Lebanon just last month, and there also there is a overwhelming openness to India. and to Indians across all ethnic and religious groups. So that is something, the positive goodwill that we have there, it really surprised me, Everybody from average, like a taxi driver to, senior government officials, there's a whole range of receptivity to India. So and I believe, looking at all of you and looking at the youth of Israel, that you are also quite interested in India, and perhaps more so than the ones who are holding public office. So that gives me confidence that this relationship, Excellency is the best person to tell you about the India-Israel relationship, but I felt like this has actually got a grounded, in international relations, we call it thick relations. Thick relations as opposed to thin relations are based on large inter-societal contacts and goodwill, not just interstate or state society. So state on one side, society on another, vice versa, government to government, but people to people is the thing that makes it really thick. And from that point of view, I find Israel-India is on a very solid foundation, and it's growing. And the reasons are obvious. One, we are not involved in the major geopolitical conflicts and the rivalries of the Middle East. Right? We have got, for example, 8 million or more Indians working mainly in the Gulf countries like UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi. But we also have ties with other countries in the region, and Israel has become very central for national security as well as for other arenas like agriculture, and Excellency will talk about it. So from that point of view, we have not really taken sides in those conflicts there. So I think that's one reason I felt where India is seen as an opportunity rather than a troublemaker or as a problem by all sides. Here on this side, why are we taking Israel so seriously? I think a lot of this has to do with one man, our Prime Minister. Especially since 2014, he has made it a point to advance the relationship far faster and broader than what was the case before. So there were some identity politics issues in India that were inhibiting the full scale of the relationship. Now we have overcome that. And I think he also believes that there are some key countries worldwide that are important for India's rise. For example, in Asia, Japan is for Mr. Modi the most important country. You ask him any day, what is the most important relationship in Asia for us? He'll say Japan, number one. For strategic reasons, for economic, there are many reasons. If you ask him what is the number one country for us in the Middle East, without any question, it's Israel. Even though we've got other players and other stakes and interests, right? So in that sense, there is a convergence of interests right now, but going beyond all those big political things, all of you young people, how many of you have been to India before? See, this happens. This is not the first time, but you've come as tourists. Excellency also came 25 years ago, 24 years ago as a backpacker. Did you come with backpacks? Did you tour? Okay. So what I'm saying is it's a very familiar and very intimate kind of relationship. And you then go deeper into look at the cultural connection and the similarities. There are quite a few. Our habits. So I think if you look deeper, you are all ambassadors of your country in a way here. And you are here this week. You won't have many students, Indian students around, but from next week, from 1st of August, I hope you will be interacting with a lot of our Jindal students. They're all coming back. They're going to be 5,000 or so on campus shortly. So there are plenty of opportunities for you or this people-to-people relationship to mature and for these friendships to carry on. And I'm sure you will learn much more than languages here. And we welcome your feedback. All our facilities are open to you, including our Olympic-sized swimming pool. So we look forward to hosting you well. And I wish you all the best for this program and good memories. And we will. I'm sure this is not the second time you're coming, but there are going to be third or even fourth times or many more times you'll be coming here and seeing our students in your campus as well. We hope to extend this relationship to the level of semester exchanges as well. Quite a few of our students have gone to Israeli universities and colleges, but not yet to Shalem. So soon we should have that as well, a reciprocal basis. And I think 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, you may be leaders of your country or doing very well in private sector, in some big business or something. But these experiences will matter a lot. Excellency was just mentioning how much India had a profound impact on him when he just came for a few weeks as a backpacker way back. So you are coming in a more structured program. You're going to be hearing many of our experts and intellectuals and learning so much about India as well. So I think this is the best you could have asked for. So good choice to come here, and we will not disappoint you. Once again, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Sriram. Can I welcome Professor C. Rajkumar to give his keynote address. His vision of interdisciplinarity has created many of the schools of the university, including our center. So thank you for your support.
All right. Thank you, Rohi. First of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished ambassador, His Excellency Dr. Ron Malka. Also, our very good dear friends from Shalem College, Dr. Nama Shalom, who used to be a faculty member here, Professor Annie Hillel, as well as other colleagues also from the Israeli embassy here in India. I also want to extend a warm welcome to all of you, students of Shalem College. It's indeed a privilege for us at OP Jindal Global University to be hosting you. Welcome to India. I want to say that this program is a very unique way of how internationalization can be promoted, the opportunity for young students from Israel to come to India and to spend this time. It may not be like how it was when you had gone to Goa and Kerala when you were students. It will be a different experience. Nevertheless, you will be challenged, and that is part of our effort to create a program of this kind. I would like to congratulate my colleagues, Professor Rohi Dasgupta and Professor Kinraj of the Center for Israel Studies, and of course the Dean of the School of International Affairs, Dr. Sriram Chaulia, for really working closely with Shalem College to have the second edition of this program. While we are calling it as the English language immersion program, there is a lot more that you will learn, and it will be beyond English that you will experience being in India and being on campus. I want to a little bit move beyond what our Dean Sriram Chaulia talked about in the context of the India-Israel relationship. I think it is important for you as students who are here to experience India beyond what you might see from Indian politicians, Indian power holders. It is in some ways, India actually is much larger and much more significant than what the best of our politicians make out to be. And I know that I am conscious of the fact that I am speaking about Indian politicians amidst the presence of a distinguished Israeli ambassador. But I say this because of the fact that India is a very unique country in the sense that there is a lot more self-governing units and capacities that are deeply embedded in the political and civic culture of India that the Indian political establishment has even till now not captured. And that is what I would like you to understand when you are in India. India is a complex country with so much of diversity. I can only say that all of our lives are so deeply embedded into a unique form of Indian imagination which only pluralistic societies can even begin to understand. I come from a place called Kanyakumari. It is the southernmost tip of India. It's where India ends in the south. Because where India ends in the north is hugely contested. So in some ways, it is a place where it is a conglomeration of three oceans, the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. And the language that is spoken in that part of India is called Tamil. And for you to sort of come to terms with this diversity of India, barely 5 decades ago, most mainstream politicians from that state of Tamil Nadu were seriously part of movements of secessionism to secede the state of Tamil Nadu from India. In fact, today's mainstream politicians who have even become members of parliament, they could trace their early origins to believing in the cause of basically wanting Tamil Nadu to be out of India. And you will find traces of such imaginations being explored in the parts of northeast of India, and of course even in northern part of India. So what I'm trying to say is that one of the remarkable things that India has done is India has been able to accommodate and constantly work towards accommodating different types of, let's say, desires and expectations of individuals, including seeking further autonomy and independence within the federal structure. The constitutional framework of India provides the deeply embedded accommodation as an element of political engagement. In fact, the more you will discover India, you will actually understand that it is not just a country like many other countries. There are numerous countries within India. A few years ago, I was invited to speak at Cornell about India. And there was a question from one of the students. And the question was that, Professor, tell me, there's one thing that unites India, that anybody and everybody across India, this vast land with over 29 different states and 1.3 billion people, is there one thing that connects India, that everybody can relate to? And I took a few minutes to think of it, and I thought, does religion unite India? No. Does caste unite India? No. Does climatic conditions, does it unite India? Of course not. Does cuisine unite India? No. Do festivals and clothing and cultural practices, does it unite India? Of course not. What unites India? I mean, that's a very pertinent question, right? If there's one thing that Indians across India, literally from Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland and Manipur and Mizoram and Assam, where the ambassador was, all the way to Gujarat, to Kanyakumari, from where I am from, all the way till Jammu and Kashmir, in northern part of India, is there one thing that unites India, that they can all relate to? Because clearly all the things that I mentioned to you, which actually unites most countries in the world, because they are bound by mostly language, sometimes religion, related as dimensions. So I came to the conclusion that if there is one thing that really unites India, it's the game of cricket. It is, as much as it sounds funny, there is nothing that every Indian across India can relate to. Because even people who believe in the religion of Hinduism, which is over 80% of Indians, there are absolutely different ways by which they actually express that belief. In fact, most of the gods that I and my family members would worship as a Hindu are completely unknown to my friends who may be Hindus in North India. So in some ways, none of the things that countries are generally used to in determining identity are actually connected to this dimension. In fact, I would like to briefly narrate a fascinating lecture given by a Nobel laureate by name Amartya Sen. He's an Indian Nobel laureate. He received the Nobel Prize some decades ago for his contribution to the field of economics, but he's also a distinguished philosopher. He spoke at Oxford University in the year 1998, when I was a student there, in fact, Sriram Chaulia, the Dean of our School of International Affairs, was also a student there. He had already obtained the Nobel Prize, and he gave a lecture entitled Reason Before Identity. And the lecture started by he talking about the fact that he got the Nobel Prize, and he was appointed as the master of Trinity College, Cambridge, and he was actually moving from Harvard, where he was teaching, to the UK and to become the master of Trinity College, Cambridge. And as you know, Trinity College has this distinction of having many Nobel laureates as its masters, so he was also appointed as the master. So he was holding an Indian passport, And he landed at the Heathrow airport. He was proceeding towards the immigration. He had to fill up a form at that time. And the form had asked a question, your address, all right? So he wrote in the address in that form, Master, Trinity College, Cambridge University. And of course, this immigration officer, who happened to be a white gentleman, and he looked at the passport, which was an Indian passport, and he looked at the form, which said address is Master, Trinity College, Cambridge, and he looked at this Indian-looking man and asked him, are you the friend of the master? And Amartya Sen, in a very typical style, instead of replying to that question, he began on a philosophical journey that can I be my own friend? And he began talking about the fact that he, Amartya Sen, a Hindu, a vegetarian, a Bengali, a cricket lover, a musician, and he essentially identified 50 identities of him as a person. And later, of course, he wrote a book, which I would invite you to read, the book, I think published by Oxford University Press, on identity and violence. And what Amartya Sen argued in that book, and indeed in the lecture, is that, unfortunately, all over the world, including in this country, we have reduced our identity to a myopic manner that some identities have ended up becoming dominating the discourse. And in this context, he talked about the religious fundamentalism that had grown up in India, particularly the majoritarian fundamentalism. And he essentially made a critical argument that we need to reason before identity, and my identity as an economist actually connects me to economists around the world, just as my identity as Bengali would connect Bengalis around the world, just as my identity probably as a Hindu would connect Hindus around the world. And the fact that we have begun to, let's say, place one identity, and in this case, religious identity, more important than other identities, diminishes our humanity. Now, I said this because of the fact that, today, young people like you, and I used to consider myself young, but no longer, young people like you have a very big responsibility. You need to develop a new imagination for the world at large. Today, we are seeing widespread forms of violence and bigotry, and including discrimination committed against individuals on the basis of their religion and caste and many other distinctions and differences that we have in our own societies. And the question then is, what kind of an imagination that we ought to have? How do you transcend these barriers that have been imposed upon us, and how do you develop a deeper sense of humanity? And I believe the only way by which we can help towards developing a deeper sense of humanity is to understand each other and to recognize our distinctions and differences, but to actually celebrate our differences. In fact, the concept of Ubuntu, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, in the African traditions, your identity is shaped by my own identity, and my identity shapes your own identity. We are what we are because of a collective sense of community and not just because of our own self. And programs of this kind have a very big role and responsibility to play. In fact, it is these programs will help you understand complexity and indeed understand society better. I have enormous faith on the possibility of what universities can do. I have very little hope and faith on what governments can do. And I say this because of the fact that we have seen in India for a very long time, and not just in India, in different parts of the world, the limitations of governance and the limitations of power holders when it comes to bringing people together, but more importantly, developing an imagination for a better society. And on the other hand, programs of this kind will help you understand societies better. And I'm very, very happy that our distinguished ambassador belongs to that community, a community of scholars and thinkers who have tirelessly worked hard to speak truth to power. That's what universities do, right? Universities spend lifelong to work towards speaking truth to power, and in that process end up becoming unpopular among power holders themselves. Governments are uncomfortable when it comes to universities in general, because universities are constantly challenging and are working towards speaking truth to power. As young Israelis, when you are in India, I would like you to discover India through your own lens, not through the lens of what our own government representatives, including the leaders of our government, say about what we are. You need to discover India for what we are really, and that is what I hope this experience at our university will give you. Let me take a few minutes to briefly introduce the university itself. This university was founded through a philanthropic initiative of our founding benefactor by name Mr. Naveen Jindal, who our ambassador knows very well. Mr. Jindal used to be an Indian parliamentarian, a steel tycoon, a very distinguished philanthropist, somebody who has been contributing towards nation building in a number of ways. I had the privilege to meet Mr. Jindal in the year 2006 and spent a year and a half persuading Mr. Naveen Jindal to do three things. One, to make a substantial financial commitment. Second, to do it in a not-for-profit manner. And third, to let me have the academic freedom and autonomy and independence to build a world-class university in India. By late 2007, Mr. Jindal agreed to all of that. He invited me to move from Hong Kong to India and essentially began the process of institution building. Before that, I had the privilege to study in Loyola College Madras, University of Delhi, Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar, and then Harvard Law School in the US, and then practiced law in New York, and taught in Tokyo, and also in Hong Kong. Those years of experience of studying and working in those countries and institutions inspired me profoundly to think about universities and how universities can shape the future of the world at large. And that is what we set out to do, starting with the first batch of students whom we welcomed in this campus with only 4 classrooms and 1 faculty office which housed myself as well as the 10 faculty members. We began in a very modest manner on 30th September 2009 with only 100 students and 10 faculty members. And 1 school, the Jindal Global Law School. We never looked back since then. In 2010, we started the Jindal Global Business School. In 2011, the Jindal School of International Affairs. In 2012, the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy. In 2013, the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. In 2016, the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication. In 2017, the Jindal School of Art and Architecture. And also in the same year, the 8th school, the Jindal School of Banking and Finance. Today, we have moved from, say, 100 students in 2009 to nearly 5,000 plus students. We moved from, say, 10 faculty members to nearly 500 faculty members. We moved from a 50-acre campus to a nearly 100-acre campus. We moved from 100,000 square feet of built-up space to over 2.5 million square feet of built-up space. Along these years, and this year is very special, and that's why the Shalem program is also very special for us this year, we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. On 30th September 2019, we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary, and we are marking this entire year as a part of our celebration. There are 5 things that shaped our vision and continue to shape our mission. First, we are a global university. For us to be a global university means to have a global curriculum, a global course structure, a global program, such as the one that we're hosting here, a global faculty, a global research agenda, all of which promoting global interaction. Over 18% of our faculty members full-time are recruited from over 32 different countries and regions in the world, including from Israel. We, of course, want to have more faculty members from Israel, and I've requested your ambassador to help us in reaching out to universities across Israel to be able to hire more outstanding graduates of your universities to join us on a full-time capacity. We have built substantive partnerships with universities around the world, including in Israel, and our students have got the benefit of pursuing student exchange program, dual degree programs, as well as short-term study abroad programs. The Center for Israel Studies here at our university, led by Rohi Dasgupta as well as Kinraj, have been at the vanguard of building strong and substantive partnerships with universities in Israel. The second aspect of our university is our strong commitment to public services. We are a not-for-profit university, which means that nearly 50+% of our students are on scholarship. We believe that access to high-quality education is critical for the future of India and the world. Third, We are a research-oriented university. We have very strong research culture. We have over 55 research centers, as well as 3 research and capacity building institutes, and our faculty members publish widely in journals around the world. The 4th is our strong commitment to what we call creating an intellectually vibrant environment through conferences and workshops and seminars. And the 5th is our work in the field of executive education. In recognition of all of this, I am very happy to share with you that 2 weeks ago, the world's most renowned rankings organization of universities, the QS Rankings, had announced the QS World University Rankings 2020. The QS Rankings essentially identifies only 1,000 universities among the 28,000 universities in the world. And in that list of 1,000, there are only 24 Indian universities, and in a span of 9 years, OP Jindal Global University broke into the rankings, and we have been recognized as the top 800 universities in the world among the 28,000 universities. A week later, QS released another rankings known as the QS Young University Rankings, which essentially ranks universities around the world on the basis of the fact that they are the ones which are less than 50 years of age. Essentially, they remove the Oxfords and Cambridges, which are 800 years old, Harvards and others, which are over 400 years old, and only look at universities which are 50 years and less. As you know, Asia and Africa, as well as Latin America and most parts of Middle East and India including, most universities were created in the last 50 years. And believe it or not, OP Jindal Global University was recognized as one of the top 150 universities in the world, and we are one of only 3 Indian universities and the only private university in these rankings to be recognized as top 150. And I'm also pleased to report that we are the youngest university in India and the youngest university in the world to have broken into both these rankings. I say this with a sense of pride because of the fact that this was possible because of the passion, the commitment, and the dedication of our faculty members and the extraordinary trust and faith that has been deposed on us by the parents and the students themselves. You will be meeting many of them in the next several days, and I sincerely hope that you will have a fruitful experience here. I want to end by saying that India is a country of 1.3 billion people. But that's not the most interesting part of the statistics. 850 million people in India are less than 35 years of age. Just grapple with that number. 850 million people are less than 35 years of age. Indian life expectancy is approximately 71, when most parts of the Western world will become older. Most parts of the Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older. India will be younger and will be younger for a longer time. And I believe that young Indians will be shaping not only the future of India, but also the future of the world. And that is why it is important for Shalem College and for Israeli students to be in India. You are part of a privileged group of young Israelis to have an opportunity to be here and to experience an extremely complex society that a few weeks of program may not fully help you to understand. Nevertheless, like us who are still discovering India, like us who are still trying to understand India, you will be part of the journey, and I promise you that it will be full of excitement and inspiration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rajkumar. I think education brings a kind of cultural reflexivity and cosmopolitan identity that has nothing but enrichment in it. On that note, can I welcome on stage Dr. Ron Malka, who is the ambassador of Israel to India, who's going to talk on India-Israel bilateral relations on economy and education.
Dear Professor Kumar, faculty members, students, first, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me to see these wonderful students coming here to explore India as I do, because I have to tell you, as mentioned before, I first visited India 24 years ago as a backpacker. I was a young soldier and an officer in the army, and I get this short leave, short vacation, so I wanted to see the East and to come to see India. And I was so excited, and I said, wow, I have to explore to understand better this wonderful, magnificent country. So I promised myself that the first chance that I will have, I'll come back to India. But then, you know, life is stronger than any plan that we make. So it took 24 years since I came here. And still, I didn't plan it before, because just 1 year ago, I was a dean in a faculty of financial markets and banking in Israel. I was a chairman of 3 big institutional investment funds in Israel. And I got this call out of nowhere from the Prime Minister's office, not from nowhere, from the Prime Minister's office, that he wants to meet me. So I went to meet the Prime Minister, because when our Prime Minister calls, you go. That's how we do things in Israel. And he told me that he wants me to leave everything and to go to India, because India is a precious friend of Israel. India is a strategic friend of Israel. India is very important for Israel, and not only for Israel, but also for the world. And I will tell you about it. So he wants me to ask me to leave everything, and just as a mission of our people, of our nation, to go to India and to try to enhance and deepen these important ties with India. So I was asked here to come to tell you about our relationships with India. So I think what I just say now will give you the sense of it, of how important it is, how special it is for us, how we see India, how we perceive India, incredible India, and why I really think that you make the right decision to come here to India to explore India, because we think that the future of the world lies in this area and especially in India. I will tell you why. We see the emergence of India as a strong economic power, and we are really privileged to be partners and part of it, is something that is very important for the world. India is balancing the world, stabilizing the world. We see now that India becomes a stronger and stronger player in the international arena, and we can feel the influence of India. As for the relationship between India and Israel, that we can see now the remarkable progress that we did in the last years, especially since 2014, and thanks to His Excellency Prime Minister Modi, that was the architect of this boom that we had and we now experience with the relationships. We can see that from there and on, we can see a steadily growing partnership, which is expanding to more and more fields, more and more domains, and is so fruitful and rewarding for both sides. And you know, there was, for many years, there was here in India the fear that if India will promote the relationship with Israel, it might make the Muslim community angry. They might not like it. But the opposite has happened. And we just experienced in the last elections, the 2019 elections, that Prime Minister Modi not only saved, but doubled the share of Muslim votes that he got in these last elections. And one of the closest friends that I have here in India since I came here, just 7 months ago, is the Imam of the Imams of the Muslims here in India. And we have good relations. And we both agree that there is no conflict between Jews and Muslims. And Muslims really see it positively, the relationship, the progress that we are doing now between what is going on between India and Israel is something which is positive, contributes to India, contributes to Israel, and it's okay with them. So, since then, as I said, a remarkable progress and advance, and what I was asked to do is to come to join the professional diplomatic team that we have here in India, because as you understand, if it's India is so important and so precious for us, the best people are here, the best team is here. And I was asked to try to somehow enrich the skills. That's what was behind my nomination here as an economist, with a background in economy, financial markets, and also in the Ministry of Defense as the financial consultant for the Chief of Staff, to come and to enrich these skills and to try to open more fields, more domains for this remarkable progress that we now experience. So this is on one hand. So I have this presentation just to give you the sense of where we stand now and how many more fields and domains we can open and just promote these very, very important relationships. So I don't need to tell you much about Israel, but just to give you the proportions, Israel, 22,000 square kilometers, about India is bigger than Israel 150 times in the territory, 200 times in the population. So Israel is very, very small comparatively to India, but still good partners. This is tiny Israel in the Middle East, surrounded with not very friendly countries. And about the population of Israel, 80% of the population of Israel are what we call Sabal, those that were born in Israel. 20% are immigrants from different kinds of the world. About the economy of Israel. Israel is an economic success. So this is something that is no doubt about it. Israel started in our independence in 1948 with a very poor start, but now Israel is a very strong economy with $40,000 per capita, among the strongest economies in the world per capita. And if I will compare it to our neighbors, so somehow this is not the, excuse me. For some reason it's not there. Anyway, so Israel is here in red. I don't know what is it, but this is Israel, and this is our neighbors. So if you compare the GDP of Israel and the remarkable success of Israel comparing to our neighbors, you can understand some of the stresses that we have in our region, in our area. But this is just to give you a sense of our success in economics. The relationship with India. So in 1950, 2 years after independence, India recognized Israel, but without formaling full relationships, without diplomatic relations, just recognized. In 1992, we established our official diplomatic relations, only in 1992. In 1956, so I'm going back now to 1956, it was the first important visit. Our foreign minister, Moshe Sharet, visited India. And in 1977, our defense minister, the known Moshe Dayan, visited India in 1977. In 1993, Shimon Peres, then the deputy prime minister, visited India for the first time that Israeli leader is visiting India. And in 1996, our president, then President Weizmann, Chaim Weizmann, visited visited India. And in 2003, the visit of our Prime Minister Sharon, the first time that Prime Minister of Israel visited India. Well, in 2015, President Mukherjee visited Israel, and in 2016, the visit of the Israeli President Rivlin as a reciprocal visit. And then the big change was in 2017 when for the first time there was the visit of Prime Minister of India to Israel. And after that, in 2018, a visit of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Those two visits made a big change, a remarkable change in the relationships, and promoted many, many things, many fields that were, negotiating. So many documents. I will touch about it later. Many agreements that were signed in that two visits, very important visits for our relationships. the domains and the areas of relationships. So there are many similar challenges that Israel and India face. And if you are talking about water, water is one of the main issues for partnership or collaboration between Israel and India. Israel is known as leader in water. Israel, most of the area is desert, and the rest is semi-arid area. But still, we declared the policy of independence of weather, water independence of weather, and we succeeded in that. And now Israel has an abundance of water, became even an exporter of water. We supply water to our neighbors, Jordan and the Palestinian Authority. This is all due to innovation, new breakthrough technologies that we use in Israel for desalination, reusing, and more, drip irrigation, and many other techniques that we develop in Israel, and we share it all here in India. Part of our vision that the future lies in innovation. That's why we want to share our innovation, our creativity, all our new techniques, breakthrough techniques with our friends, especially here in India. Agriculture is one of the main pillars of partnership. We have so many techniques that we develop in agriculture. Now we are talking about precision agriculture. We are using drones and satellites to monitor the fields. All these techniques are shared here with India. Many, many places. We have a very big mutual project. It's called a Mutual Project of Agriculture between Israel and India. Almost 30 centers of excellence in agriculture that we have here, spread all around India, where our experts come from Israel and share their knowledge, their experience, the new techniques, breakthrough techniques that we have in agriculture with our friends here in India. Just on 2018, almost 147,000 trainees were trained in these centers of excellence. Farmers, Indian farmers that were trained excuse me, in Israeli centers of excellence. Education, you must be interested in education, so many, I have a slide about education, the next slide, so I'll skip. Innovation is something that we just put a focus on. Many mutual hubs and incubators of innovation try to innovate together, to share the spirit of innovation, not only exchange the know-how and the techniques, but also to share the spirit of innovation. So many partnerships in innovation. As I said, innovation, Israel and India share the vision of making the world a better place through innovation. And we can really see that those economies, those countries that focus on innovation are those that did the remarkable progress. Those economies in the world that don't do innovation are those that have poorly economic performance in the world. We can see it. So we can see how relative and how important innovation is. So we share the vision that innovation is the pillar that we need to focus on. Of course, defense. I can also say that I think that the relationship started with defense, and then now it's in many other areas. But it started on this visit, the first visit in 1956, that talked about defense issues. And since then, we have some relationship with cooperation in defense. Homeland security is another thing we face, as I said, similar challenges, similar hostilities, so lots to share in this area, in this domain of homeland security. Cybersecurity, Israel is a leader, world leader in cybersecurity. Although Israel is less than 1/1000th of the world population, 20% of the world's investment in cybersecurity flows to Israel. So we are leaders in this area, and of course, we share our know-how and knowledge and experience here in India. Finance is something that now is promoted. Now we have collaboration between the central banks. Just 2 weeks ago, the governor of the Israeli central banks, Bank of Israel, was here, and he met his counterpart, and they started now to collaborate in some areas, some fields. Our banking supervisor was here with him. The chairmen of the security authorities, the chairman of the SEBI, the security authorities here in India, met the chairman of the Israeli security authorities, and they decided to initiate the working groups and to work together about some issues, some mutual challenges. Also, the chairmen and the CEOs of the stock exchanges are now collaborating, and hopefully we'll see more and more collaborations, and if we will be able to have a free flow of funds between the countries, this will support the real investments in these areas. So many know-hows and so many experience to share. Health is one of the main pillars. India is going now to a very big reform in healthcare. And Israel has so many things to share in this area. So we started collaborating in this area. We expanded the collaboration in this area. There are mutual delegations that go, experts that go from India to Israel and from Israel to India, share the techniques, the know-how, the experience in healthcare systems. Space. You used to say that the sky is the limit, but not even the space is not the limit, so there's no limit to how we can expand those relationships. So of course, we also have relationships and partnerships in space. 2 out of 5 countries that reach the moon are India and Israel. So imagine how much we can collaborate and share in these areas. And of course, energy and tourism are two more pillars of collaboration. The trade between India and Israel is more than 20 times bigger than it used to be when you just started relations in 1992, from 200 million to more than $4 billion. Still much more to do, and we're working on that, and I think that it's working so well for, as I said, for both countries. Excuse me. Okay. I had a picture on education, but some slide on education, but I don't see it here. Anyway, education is something that I lost it. Was lost. I don't see it. Maybe Mayan will find it. Anyway, many. Okay. The recognize Professor Kumar. When he was here. So this is Professor Kumar. This is professor of the college in Israel that I was a dean in. I was serving as a dean. And this is one, was my, we all were. We all were much younger at that time, in 2016. So many MOUs, many agreements, mutual agreements, sharing of know-how, scholars, researchers between the countries, of course, students, exchange of students between the countries. 10% of the foreign students in Israel are Indians, 10%, which means it says a lot, and still more to do, still counting. And of course, this is another pillar that we want, to enhance. I can tell you about education. I told it to Professor Kumar before. Education is the main foundation of Israel, because where our parents came to Israel, my parents, for example, they came to Israel, immigrated to Israel from Morocco on the early 60s, 1961. Israel was very young, less than 13 years old. And they said, we are going to build this country on education, because in Israel we didn't have any natural resources. We just found some natural gas in the sea just a few years ago. Before that, no any natural resources. The main foundation that we built this successful economic is education, human capital. We invested in the education, the human capital, human mind, and that's how we progressed, and that's how we thrived. So education is one of the main pillars, is the main foundation. From education, we move to innovation, and as I told you, we think that innovation is the future. Education, innovation, and this is the future. So education is the main pillar, and hopefully we can enhance as much as we can the ties in this very important domain. So, I talked about trade, and just to give you the sense of how many big companies are here, have a footprint here in India, collaborating in many areas. You need to understand that Prime Minister Modi declared the policy of Make in India. For Israelis, it works so well because in Israel, everyone that wants to have a job is employed. You don't have any unemployment. You know how we measure unemployment. Those that look for a job and get job. So we don't have any unemployment. Only the frictional unemployment that you have to have, this is the minimum. So we have lack of workers, engineers, scientists. So for us to bring our know-how, our techniques, our new innovations to India and to upscale it here is a good opportunity. So it works so well for both sides. You can understand and see the opportunity. So we are very aligned with this policy of making in India, doubling the income of farmers. It works so well for both countries. And how we do it, and with this I will finish, I will end. So we have agreements between government to government agreements. So in this level, in these main pillars, we have government to government agreements. We have business to business, between businesses, when the government is not involved or just, facilitate and promote, but this is between businesses and between people to people. Eventually it's people to people, because when two people meet and there's the chemistry, this spark that we are looking for, the rest follows. So that's what we are trying to do, to find the right people in two sides and just to connect them together. Once we find the right people and there's the spark that we are looking for, the rest follows, so we can go on. And it works so well between India and Israel. Some chemistry that I can try to find some, logistic explanations, but you just feel it. It's just there. So no need for explanation, it's out there, just there. MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding in many areas, and agreements in all these areas. Working group. Working group is some mechanism that working so well between India and Israel. Whenever we find a challenge that we decide to cooperate, to partner, to make partnership, to joint venture. We initiate working groups of experts. Every few working groups have steering committee that supervises, and it works so well. So in all these areas, and with all these states and even more, we initiate working groups that are working so well together and just, taking and promoting those relationships. And there is a special government decision that is dedicated to India. As I told you, India is very, very important. It's defined as strategic partner of Israel. So we have a specific government decision to promote the relationships between Israel and India with budget that is dedicated specifically for that. That's how important India is for Israel. Thank you very much.
I understand, in the interest of time, and I understand Ambassador Malka has to go back to Delhi, we will first do the felicitation of the mementos and thank him for his visit and his insights to India-Israel relations.
our neighbor.
Great. Leave all of this here and take a group photograph.
kindly also invite Mayan to take a...
Oh, yes, of course. You should join us. Yeah, please. Yeah, one picture before the ambassador leaves. We'll have one of
It's my right hand.
Come. You have been helping. Come on.
Yes. No, this is a gift from Maya.
Yeah, we'll give it to Maya. All right, now who's going to take this picture? Can we come closer? All right, okay. I'll see you around later.
All right, now we'll continue our inaugural program. Can I invite Dr. Nama Shalom, Professor, Humanistic Studies, Shalem College, for her remarks.
Okay, so you're going to get here.
sorry.
No, that's okay. We changed, we did a little change here. You're going to get 2 for 1 in half the time. So it's a good deal. We know how to make good deals, right? Okay, so we would like to begin by addressing our dear students, and would like to take this opportunity to suggest that if you do nothing else these next 3 weeks here at Jindal, at the very, very least, try to humiliate yourselves. But seriously, if we follow the roots of the word humiliate back to its origins, we find humility. And if we take it back even further, we find hummus, or humus maybe, or earth, being close to the ground. From there, one has perhaps the view from her own toenail or shoelace, and from there, we can see a blade of grass as well as we can see the sky. What does that have to do with us here at Jindal University in India? Well, learning or improving in a language requires us at times to humiliate ourselves. Those who have studied with me know that there are serious benefits to being a hardcore nerd, the most significant of which is you get the whole class to clap and cheer for you when you ask what a new word means, right? Even though the result is one more item on the quiz that you're going to hear it afterwards from your classmates. Even in our native languages, all of us have had that feeling, to one degree or another, of fear or shame when we endeavor to express ourselves. The Polish poet Czesław Miłosz writes, "Each of us is so ashamed of his own helplessness and ignorance that he considers it appropriate to communicate only when he thinks others will understand. There are, however, times when somehow we slowly divest ourselves of that shame and begin to speak openly about all the things we do not understand." The nature of human communication is such that we are constantly humbling, if not even sometimes humiliating ourselves, knowing we may not always be understood, knowing we may not always understand. This is no less true when speaking a language that may not fully be our own. We would like to suggest that this humility is precisely what you need to equip yourselves with to receive what you came here to receive and to give what you have to give. From that humble place, that place close to or down to earth, one thing is for certain. There are things we don't know, and things we don't know that we don't know that we don't know that we don't know, etc. Instead of, I know you want to go, have dinner at some point, so we'll stop that. Instead of judging or comparing or drawing conclusions, humility dwells in perception, at least for a while. It resides in the experience itself, its textures, its tastes, its smells. It takes in the feeling, whether it's worry, resistance, curiosity, fear, joy. It waits to find out. Along these lines, in her Nobel Prize acceptance speech, Szymborska discusses the strange utility of not knowing. Knowledge that doesn't lead to new questions, she writes, quickly dies out. It fails to maintain the temperature required for sustaining life. In the most extreme cases, well known from ancient to modern history, it even poses a lethal threat to society. In that spirit, let's consider for a moment, and throughout our 3 weeks here at Jindal, not what we know, but what do we not know? What are we waiting to find out?
Well, we don't know India, for one. Even those of us who have been here before, some of us for long stretches of time, do we really understand its various religions, its history, its complex ideas, its unimaginable huge composite of various cultures and peoples? In general terms, one can say that India is the locus of the unknown. It is a place where over many long centuries people have invested their inquiry into what should have been one of the most obvious and familiar things one can think of, the self. Yet this self is so elusive, so difficult to approach. Really, one doesn't have to travel far distances to a foreign land such as India in order to find oneself. It is always present here with us all the time, whether we like it or not, whether we feel comfortable with ourselves or not. And yet people from all walks of life, philosophers, poets, rulers, generals, to name a few, over the span of many long centuries have traveled to India in search of just that, the self. India has produced what could be considered an inordinate, certainly unprecedented number of systems of release, philosophies and metaphysical explorations pregnant with such fascinating ideas and worldviews that concern the mystery of the self and its relation to questions such as what is a human being and his or her relation to the world that surrounds us. This path of inquiry has been taken in India many long centuries before modern psychology in the West, with great thinkers such as Freud, Jung, and others, have noticed that, hey, the self of oneself is perhaps the single most interesting, fascinating, and mysterious entities that exist upon Earth and a worthy goal of exploration. Even though I've learned about India and its vastly rich civilization for many long years, the better part of my adult life, I always feel it is somewhat like the self. Unyielding, unapproachable, beautiful, magnificent, magnanimous, enchanting, and obscure. I never feel like I've had enough of it, or that I've exhausted my exploration of it, or that I'm saturated of studying it or visiting it time and again in order to get yet another small glimpse of its beauty, its rich culture, unimaginable vastness of ideas, and mainly its unparalleled people, who show me kindness, tremendously inspire me, and teach me about humility like nowhere else in the world. And finally, in closing, we really don't know, we really cannot comprehend the extraordinary privilege of being able to participate in a program, one that when people ask you what you're doing this summer and you say summer school and then you add in India, they aren't sure they've heard you right. Annie and I can say that we too could never have conceived of more welcoming, caring, thoughtful, and professional colleagues with whom to create this program, which we can confidently say, perhaps not so humbly, is the first and only of its kind anywhere in Israel or India alike. A whole lot of heart and late night and early morning hours went into creating the program, particularly among our hosts here who define generosity. In Israel, being a relatively young country, we tend to say that if you do something more than once, then you can call it a tradition. Since I'm proud to say this is our second time around here at Jindal, materializing this highly ambitious project yet again, I think we can all cautiously call it our very own tradition, which I personally feel very proud to be part of, along with my amazing and super talented partners forming this crazy adventure, both here at Jindal and back at Shalem College. I hope that this tradition of fruitful collaboration between our two institutions and countries will grow further and further for many long years to come. On that note, we'd like to thank Israel ambassador who left, so may he hear us anywhere. Israel ambassador to India, Dr. Ron Malka. We are honored to have him on this festive opening. and for the generosity that the embassy showed us to this program. We'd like to thank the Vice Chancellor, who's also not here, Professor Raj Kumar, for hosting us again so generously, for inspiring our students, and for contributing to the success of this program in every imaginable way. We'd like to thank Professor Sriram Chaulia, the Dean of Jindal School of International Affairs, as well as Dr. Rohi Dasgupta, and the entire Center of Israel Studies, and the volunteers for hosting us here again, and for the vision of making this program come to life again. Our deepest gratitude goes to Dr. Kinvra Jangid, my friend, the founder of the program, which was which was born all this time ago in some random conversation Kinvraj and I had in a coffee shop, I think, in Tel Aviv. Kinvraj dedicated ridiculous amounts of work with Annie and me into turning this program even better than it was last year. We'd also like to thank Lali Ji, without whom nothing would have happened. He worked and toiled tirelessly with such dedication we have never encountered before. Lastly, we'd like to thank the volunteers again, and Achia Anzi, who is not here, but he'll join us very soon, as well as the entire faculty members teaching in this program, whose wisdom, craft, knowledge, and spirit are the very foundations on which this program is laid. As a token of our deepest appreciation, we'd like to gift you this humble present from Shalem College to Jindal's library, and it's called Jerusalem, the Biography by Simon Sebag Montefiore. Thank you very much.
Such words of appreciation and insight only friends can give. So thank you so much, Annie and Nama. Can I invite Professor Kalyani Unkule, who's the director of the Office of International Affairs and Global Initiatives at GGU, to say a few words.
I can see that you guys are exhausted, so I'm going to keep it very short. I'm just going to read a quick poem, and you can make of it as you see fit, and then I'll tell you quickly what I made of it. It's called The One-Eyed Town, right? The One-Eyed Town. It's translated from a Hindi poem called Kano Ki Ek Nagri Dekhi by the famous poet Gulzar. So the One-Eyed Town. I came upon a one-eyed town, jam-packed with just one eyes. On one hand, they were crazy. On the other, shrewd and wise. In that one-eyed town, I found, the rituals were so strange. Sickness flourished in strange places. Strange cures remained unchanged. The rivers flowed on bridges, and the trains ran on water, not land. On bushy tails of apes there grew thick grapes in bunches grand. Umbrella in hand on moonlit nights, they'd go out and say, "Oh my, the dew is falling down, it seems, and breaking our heads from high." When the mice would bail themselves and go chasing after the cat, on empty bellies they'd drum their hands and sing qawwalis just like that. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, they say. But it's untrue. Go see for yourself in the one-eyed town, reigns a blind king, I swear to you. So this summer, I've been writing a book which explores what it means to leave your comfort zone and go and study abroad, and how we can enhance the value of study abroad programs. I found this poem when I was doing the research for my book, and it resonated with me. It came to my mind that this is what India must seem like to someone who has never been to this country before, like a one-eyed town. So I thought I would share the poem with you. My previous speakers have stated it quite eloquently, but just to prepare you adequately for what's to come, I would say that India has the ability to evoke a spectrum of emotions from mild amusement to uneasy bafflement to renewed faith in the mysteries of divine intervention. Indeed, as someone who was born and bred here, even I feel some combination of these emotions myself on a daily basis. It seems increasingly that we live in a world torn between reaffirming shared identities on the one hand and renouncing all labels to embrace radical diversity on the other. Going to study in another part of the world, as you have, can hold up a mirror to our tendency to construe the unfamiliar as irrational. It can relieve us of the burdens of borrowed categories and tired stereotypes and focus not on what makes us different from each other, but on all the things that unite us. On that note, I wish you a fabulous stay in India and a very enjoyable learning experience at Jindal Global University. See you around.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful poem, Kalyani. May I request Professor Kivraj Jangid, Co-Director, Jindal Center for Israel Studies, to give his closing remarks.
Thank you, Rohi. And first of all, I welcome all of you here. I expected so much around this program that I can't wait to begin the first day tomorrow morning. So I'm excited like you are. I'm also nervous a bit like some of you are. What will happen, how will happen, but I'm sure, as I wrote to you in the good to know things, you can be very assured that you are at a good place in an exciting piece of land and with very, very interesting set of people. Your presence today reminds me of a letter that David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister, wrote in 1957. It's a very interesting letter because in 1957, India already dismissed his multiple requests for friendship. As Ambassador showed you in the slide, India refused to have diplomatic friendship with Israel from 1948 onwards, and it happened only in 1992. So why Ben-Gurion is talking about India in 1957 when he knows that Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, has some other priorities or other values for which he's not going to take the friendship further. But in 1957, he is traveling to Burma with some books of Sanskrit and Vedas. He wants to read them. He regrets in this letter that he doesn't know Sanskrit, so he has to read the translations. Now, he was a very mysterious man. I think you know him hanging upside down on the beach in Tel Aviv. But in 1957, when he was writing this letter to an Indian friend about his spirituality and his keenness to learn the languages like Sanskrit and Pali, he says at the end of the letter that I'm just reading two sentences because you are part of that dream. I just want you to relate with this letter that he was writing in 1957. He says, I'm now negotiating with our university the project of sending Israeli students to India in order to study Sanskrit and Pali and the history of the Indian religion and philosophy, and also the project of preparing a Hebrew translation of the great Indian thinkers. Well, you fulfill his dream by coming here. In 1957, whatever project he negotiated, it didn't go anywhere. Nothing happened till 1992. So, very simple proposition that I really want you to realize is that what we are doing today is much more significant than beyond our immediate interest. That we are part of a larger story, that we are part of a larger history. Maybe we will be making a bit of this history ourselves by doing this kind of a project, but understand that some people imagined the people of Israel and India to meet, to learn together, to understand each other, to know about each other as much as they can. So this is what I briefly want to tell you, and more will follow, from tonight onwards. Once you eat your dinner, we will tell you what will happen from tomorrow onwards in the morning. But really, really warm welcome and a very, very big thanks to Annie and Nama for trusting us. I think in India, we do have a problem of trust. We can be a bit chaotic, bit balagan, here and there. So, and we want to work hard. So I think their little trust really made us better in what we do. And as previous speakers said, the fact that it's a second program, it's almost a tradition that we can claim for ourselves. So with that, I really thank Annie and Nama for trusting this place, the individuals who are working here. And I also want to thank two individuals who are part of the audience today, Gopa Nayak and Suman Ravi. They're sitting behind, but they are two remarkable. Gopa Nayak and Suman Ravi are the two teachers who taught the first program that happened here. So the feedback that you got is the feedback, hard work that they did. And I really want to thank you for this. And another person we have is Shubhashri Bhattacharya and Mohsin Khan, who would be teaching you. They'll meet you more, casually over the dinner at 7 o'clock. But that's a good start for today. So with that much, I thank our dean for sparing so much time and spending his evening with us, and Kalyani for her warmth and affection to this program. And we'll talk more about what we do next. So thank you very much, and thank you, Rohi.
The evening, however, has just begun. We have Dean's dinner at 7 p.m. So, Sriram, you will be here during the Dean's dinner at 7 p.m., yeah? All right, so shall we request all of you to come nearer so we can have a larger group photo? That's all. I have to say, as Sriram facilitates Nama, that there are many Israeli Indologists that has happened since the 20th century, and we are very proud about that. Nama is one of them. So thank you, Nama. And Annie, thank you so much for your insights, for whatever you bring to the program. Thank you very much indeed. All right, guys, so can we come up now for the larger group photo?